We're going to be painting them up. I've already got the rest of the unit painted. I'll be showing those, and so I'm going to match this fella up to that so we can play some games with them. So let's go ahead and turn on light, switch it over to the mini cam, and let's get started. Oh, there's no sound. I'm muted. We got sound? We got sound now. So they just missed all my card reveals there. I just spoiled everything. I'm looking at our producer over there, Kevin, and he's giving me the bad eye. Okay, so we just saw an awesome trailer for some new Star Wars Legion miniatures. We're gonna be painting up something you saw from the trailer, the Pike Syndicate unit leader, and I got some Pikes painted up, so I got to match him. So we're gonna be showing this off. We'll be going over the recipe, and let's get this started. Chat's blowing up. We fixed the sound. We started over, and we're ready to rock and roll. We're ready to party down. So I'm going to grab a couple brushes. Kick it over to minicam there, Kev. Perfection. So here's our lovely little Pike Syndicate unit leader. And we have this fella. Check that out. And so I painted this up recently. Left the unit leader for last. We're just going to match him up. So we're going to go over how I got this this skin and these nice blacks and stuff like that. So let's get those off and get going. So I got some greens. I just got a selection of greens on my palette. Let me see if I can actually get a shot of this. Tell me when I'm in shot.
You're about to.
There we go. So we got some greens, we got some browns, we got some reds, just on a wet palette. Just a little bit of everything. And we're going to use these to create our skin tone on our fella. So the very first thing I'm going to do, I did a Zenith Prime. That's a black primer with a white over top, leaving some of the white showing. And what I want to do is I want to kind of glaze over all the skin areas with a nice green. You can choose whatever green you want, whatever you feel is appropriate. I picked something that's a little, sort of like a swampy pea green. If you go to the farmer's market and get some nice fresh peas, this is like the color of that. So what I'm doing is I'm taking a tiny dot of paint, putting it down the shadow area. I'm using a second brush that's a little damp. And I'm drawing that out over top of that Zenith Prime to create a sort of transition. You can see that there where the black primer was, the white primer is. Oh, it looks like BK just confirmed that you'll be seeing Pike in action. That's why I'm painting this. I gotta get ready for the big game. The big game. I want to leave under here where it's really, really shadowy. It doesn't matter how much coverage I get. I'm just going to throw some darker shadows on that. So multiple layers of paint. You don't have to always do multiple layers of your base coat. If you're going to go into a couple shadow colors, those will give you the coverage you need as well. Did everybody enjoy the trailer? I did. So many cool things I need to paint in that trailer. Just slap that on and pull that from the top. I want that white to show. These little Pike guys have these little noodly bits on their front of their face. I assume they're like alien nostrils or something. The trailer will be posted later. Yes, the trailer will be posted up later. Let's take a look. The arms. So I'm going to use this fella as reference, because I don't have art reference in front of me, so I'm going to use the miniature that I used art reference for. to kind of help me remember where all my elements are. And just keep going over all the skin areas with the green of your choice. And just cover over it. Just like so. Can't see that side, it's just an elbow, nothing fancy there. These little fingers on the bottom, so I don't typically worry about those, especially for gaming miniatures. If this was a studio paint job or say a competition paint job, I'd be more concerned about the undersides. But just for gaming, I'll sometimes just leave them sort of black, just let them be. And like that. Like that. Now, next thing we want to do I'll take a little more like an olive. You see here. We're going to put this on the lower shadowy areas. I'm going to bring that up with that second brush, just ever so lightly. I'm going to leave some of that color shining through, that nice peaty pea green. Just bring that up. And this will act as that first shadow. Can we move the audio mixer on the screen? It's blocking the chat. In case there's any questions about any paint. We're just gonna shade the fingers and the arms. It's interesting. I was looking at the concept art. They got little metal toes, like little armor plates on your toes. Yeah, Cupcake Hunter. First off, great name. We got cupcakes in the office for Main Extravaganza, so that's exciting. Cupcake Hunter says these memes are so good. I agree. These little Pike Syndicate guys, seeing them in Clone Wars, I was like, whoa, these guys are really super cool and such a unique and fun take on alien design. Seeing them come to life in miniature, they're really cool looking. And having painted up almost the whole unit already, I can tell you, they're a lot of fun to paint. Everything is nice and defined. I believe our boy Corey engineered these. They go together really well. Just everything is nice and sharp, so just fun little miniatures to paint up. So I'm super excited. They come on a sprue. They are hard plastic. They come on frames. Sundancer. They are hard plastic. So now I'm going with a darker green. So you can see that this is a darker green. Whoops, that was very light, very thin. Darker green. The sprue, actually, if you want to get technical, the frame is what miniatures come on, hard plastic miniatures. The sprue is the gates. It's actually not part you actually receive. Sprue has become shorthand in the wargame community, but you actually receive frames. Fun fact. So I'm just darkening up those dark areas. Yeah, you have to wait to see what the developers play with tomorrow. Got beautiful new miniatures. Let's go over how to paint them up. I could see some fun alternate color schemes for these too. Like, I kind of went more black armor on mine than the studio ones. This is not a yellow. This is more of a, it's a very minty or pea green. Yeah, there's several. I got a couple in here with me. How did I make the base? You should join in later. We're going to do a basing stream, and I'm going to go over how to make bases. So I'm going to take some burnt umber. I'm going to mix it into dark green. I'm going to make an even darker color. And that's going to be my darkest shade. I'm going to put in like the little wrinkles of his neck folds. Right around his little face noodles. I would love to see the pike done in like a synth wave style. I think they would look really great in like the magentas and teals. They just have that feel to them. Like, you know, these guys are dealing in spice and illicit product, so they should definitely be dressed and decorated like Crockett and Tubbs is going to show up and shake them down. That's what I see. I think some more red version of their skin would be really cool, or maybe more blue like a Duros. Could be cool looking. I think the possibilities are endless, and especially on these miniatures, they're just so flavorful. They're full of character. You could really have just a lot of fun painting these up. All right. The last thing I'm going to do on the head, we are going to do the little strippy stripes on this guy, but first we need to highlight his noggin. So I'm going to add a little off-white. I'll show you some off-white. A little dot of off-white. I'll show you the palette. I gotta look up over that screen. There's black, white, off-white. There's a rainy gray. There's a silver, and then right there, my greens, a gray, and a red. That's like a brown red. That is my current palette. And I'm just kind of mixing things together. You should feel free and confident when you're painting to kind of mix stuff up. Even in studio, I'm very much a close enough is good enough. You can match very easily by just taking a little, being similar with the colors and the tones. And you can learn how to really get close enough. Let's highlight these face noodles. This is that off-white mixed with the base color green. We're going to put a couple little highlight lines. I'm just going to look at where the wrinkles are. And on this I want the highlights to kind of go down because the stripes on their heads go horizontal. So these highlights going the opposite way will give a nice contrast. Always highlight fingertips and knuckles, where light catches a lot. And then, as you can see, I kind of went back on their heads a little bit, so this is going the same direction, but it's on the very top of their heads. A little more green on this side. This side's a little more shadowed, so I want to just bring down the highlight color. A lot of times you learn how to paint and this is the highlight color and goes all the way around the miniature. Since this side's darker, I don't want the highlight to be the same value. I want to bring the value down, so add a little bit more of the green back into the off-white to offset, and it makes the overall miniature feel more dynamic when you're looking at it. And then leave that really bright highlight as like little dots right on the ends of the wrinkles. Little face wrinkles. Alright. Now we're going to take our shade color. Remember that's the green and some burnt umber. I'm going to mix a little touch of gray in it. And gray is a desaturator color. I gotta move this fella. I'm gonna pick gonna look at what I did on this guy. And imagine how this is gonna translate here. I'm gonna take my brush, make sure the paint's nice and loose. Draw out some little lines. Now the fun thing about painting aliens and just creatures in general is they don't any sort of marking like this, they're a lot of fun, but you don't have to make them perfect. Life is not perfect. So you can let it sort of be weird and not quite a shape. Maybe that one didn't grow in the right pattern. Who knows? That's what makes him unique. And come over the side and make sure they feel close enough. Once again, close enough is good enough. And that's the skin. All right, let's do some black. So I'm just going to take some black, put it on my palette. I have a regular well palette. I'm just going to put some black over here. A little bit of art medium. Mix that together. Make a little wash. We're going to go over all the areas that are going to be black. And the zenithal prime will help speed this process up, right? What that does is, as I paint over the black, or over the zenith of the black with a wash, some of that white and black pre-shade and highlight shine through, and it allows me sort of like some dynamic and good basis to work my highlights and shadows on. I did the whole forearm in glows in black. So I think the studio models are a little different. I went with more black. I really wanted to feel like my pike enforcers were just more, I don't know, aggressive. They're definitely kind of the baddies. I think I did this collar black. I should be looking at my reference. I'm not. I think reference is one of those tools that a lot of novice painters kind of ignore. And something very important to the creative process. When we're sculpting or concepting, reference, even if you're concepting something brand new, never seen, there's always a analog or something you can reference. And so I'm very much, you should always be using reference. I'm just using my miniatures. He's over there. I pulled him off the side there to get my brush around him. But it's a good habit to get into, picking out references and going with it. So like if you're picking, say you didn't want to go with this greeny skin tone, right? You could look at Google deep sea creatures. Now this is going to take you on a fun journey. Google deep sea creatures and have fun looking at all the creatures that exist in the deep sea, and there might be a color palette that inspires you and would make a good and interesting version of your Pike Syndicate or anybody else, or your Chewbacca's. Who knows? I totally just used Chewbacca's as a catch-all phrase for Wookiees, and I apologize. So some of these plates I'm hitting with my brush are not going to actually be black, but it doesn't matter. I'm going to go right around his little shirt collar. He's got to have an undershirt. Okay, I'm going to let that wash dry. You have to be nice to BK, that's for sure. BK giveth, BK taketh. So we're going to use my brown color. It's like a very red brown. This can be any red brown, or maybe you wanted yellow. I just picked this nice contrasty. It goes very well against that skin. It brings some warmth into the miniature. Skin is very cool, very kind of swampy. So I wanted to bring some of that warmth in. So I got this like brown red. And I'm going to use that just to define a couple areas. And if you make a mess, that's fine. You get paint in the wrong place. Painting miniatures is the fine art of correcting one's mistakes. It's definitely plural. So everything is drying. I'm going to take a little bit of red ink. Now, if you haven't used ink, ink is such a wonderful tool to add to your arsenal. And there's all sort of artist inks and stuff like that. Ink is a very thin paint. It's super fluid and wet. Ink has a lot of pigment though. So that means it's a highly pigmented paint. So it's very thin. It's got a ton of pigment. And what I'm going to be able to do here is see how they're little face noodles? I'm just going to keep calling them that because it's adorable. There's a little bit of red. So what I did is I took a little bit of red ink and the tiniest touch of the green from the skin tone. And I'm going to paint that on. And see how very thin it is? And I'm going to use my second brush. See, that's too thick. So I'm going to use that second brush to kind of pull and absorb. And this is just going to tint those little face noodles to warm. Now this is how you paint a lot of translucent stuff. And we'll be going over some more inks later in the weekend. Definitely on a couple of my streams. I'll be using inks to punch up some magic. I don't know, Schick on one of his was asking me about some inks, making sure I had them with me so he can use them. It just creates a nice translucent paint so you can kind of see that base color through it, and it gives that warm skin feel to it. Let's do silver. Grab a little silver. Our black is drying. I'm going to add a little touch of black to that silver. I feel like that's too... There we go. The silver is too bright. So a little touch of silver. A little touch of black. And we're going to paint these little armor plates. I love mixing colors into my metals. You can mix, I was painting something last night and I mixed some blue into the metals. Actually, I used a blue ink. It can give your metals more life and visual interest. So by mixing colors into the metals, it's a lot of fun. This I'm keeping pretty generic. By generic, I just mean a nice silver. No real colors. Maybe we'll throw some colors in. I forgot my yellow ink in the other room. I didn't think about it because I didn't think I was going to use it. But now I'm like seeing this strip right here, and I'm like, oh, that could have been gold. And you can use inks to change silver metal into golds very easily. It's a nice trick. We're just going to paint everything real silver real quick. Man, I'm doing great on time. I'm going to finish this miniature in an hour. I might even run out of stuff to do. How did I do his skirts? That's brown too. I did miss that. I love all the speculation going on right now. Kevin, are you watching that too? He is. That's the fun of teases. All the fun speculation. Until it gets into like conspiracy theory territory. That's weird. Alright. Silver is applied. Don't forget their little toes. They got little silver toes. Which I don't think I'll ever get enough of. K7 kicker sculpts look great. Yeah, I agree. These sculpts are awesome. They've been a ton of fun to paint. So we need to add brown to the areas we missed. This frames up very nicely. Oh, someone asked earlier what size brushes I use. I typically use 2s and 3s. I don't know it. That's what I typically use, is a 2 and a 3. What I like is I don't like super tiny brushes because they don't have enough belly. That's the belly. That's the tip. The belly is what holds the paint and keeps it wet and loose. So I like a nice belly on the paintbrush to keep the paint nice and loose. There's nothing worse than lining up the shot, so to say, with your paintbrush and then going in and the paint's just dry. So a big belly on the paintbrush kind of helps with that. Let's draw a dark line around the mask. I did say dark line. If you've been painting miniatures for a while, there's a phrase called black lining. I typically add a color to the black before I line, so I call it dark lining. Well, typically go just black. Alright, we can take black as well. And paint it over the gun, the blaster. Star Wars blasters always have that like non-metallic feel. So I don't like the blasters to have metal in them. The references always feel like they're some sort of composite or some sort of other material. So I typically do Star Wars blasters in a non-metallic way. So I'll lay down a layer of black and then we'll do some grays over top of that black to create a nice effect on them. Just like so. All right. Let's take some burnt umber. And we're going to use that to shade our warm browns. Just a little bit. Treat it almost like a wash. Just let it slide into those recesses. Different than a glaze. In case anybody wants to know the difference between a wash and a glaze. Maybe terms you've heard and no one's ever defined for you. Alright. This guy is looking super cool. Let's take a little bit of off-white or reddy brown. So a few highlights here and there. What is the difference? Oh, see, Sarah, see, that's what I'm getting at. Washes and glazes. It's always something people hear and not always is defined for them. So we're going to go over it. A wash is any paint that is thin enough. Well, what I like to say is washes and glazes, they are not things, they are techniques. So a wash, the goal is you take a pip of paint and you thin it down like so with some water. You can also use art medium. And the goal of a wash is to go over an area and set into the recesses and pull off the raised details. A glaze, think of a glaze like a filter. So if you were to go get your photo taken at the portrait studio and the photographer needs a little more, say, blue on you or a little more red, they put that little filter over top of the light and it changes the color of everything. So that's what a glaze is. A glaze would be a very, very thin paint that evenly, it doesn't just wash into the recesses. It evenly goes over an entire surface or element to purposely change the color or the hue, I guess, or the tone. So a glaze is very, very thin, goes over top of something to slightly change the color. And a wash goes over stuff to get in the recesses to create contrast. Does that make sense? Made sense to me, but that doesn't make sense to you. Oh, what is the miniature on? I get asked this a lot. So this is just a primer lid, and this is just double-sided tape, and that's a bunch of blue tack up inside there. And this is just a mic stand, and what this does is just allows me to not go off camera when I'm painting miniatures. Because if I don't have this, I will never stay on screen. Never. I will be all over the place. It's basically my control on how to rope me in. I'm going to feather that. A filter and a glaze are, those is, to me, those are the exact same things, just different ways to say them. You just filter with a glaze. I think a lot of words become sort of misused or almost just you kind of use the same words for the same thing sometimes, but a filter and glaze, that's the same thing. So that was, I did a little gray over top of our metal. So one thing I like to talk about is the metallosity of things. To make something look more metal, you have to remove some of that like poppy, metallic effect of the metallic paints. Right? So you take some opaque paints like grays or blue grays, blacks, and you glaze or shadow or wash, however you want to approach it. There's no wrong way to go about it. And you push that metallic down, and that's going to make it feel more metallic, especially at the end after we add some highlights to it. Because the last thing you want is just pure metallic. If you look at something that is metallic, like the silver ring of this atomic mass cup, you can see how this is very metallic-y, and then it goes down, and like the metallic-y goes away in the shadows, right? It becomes dull. It becomes opaque. And that's what you're trying to replicate. I need a drink. That's what you're trying to replicate with the gray paints. So I've added black to my grays. And I'm going to define all of the deep shadows of the armor. Very quickly. I want that more black. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. So I can control wash. That's a wash, but I don't let it flow everywhere. And I use a second brush to kind of put it where I want it instead of just kind of slurping everywhere. So almost done. What other questions we got? Chat. Everybody's talking about donuts. I shouldn't have said the word glaze. We don't have donuts here today. We do have cupcakes, and I saw that there was a salted caramel one still. I totally want to steal that. Oh. It's got the back. Like a little whoop. Back of the armor pad. I like on armor pads and stuff to kind of have like what I call bad blends. So you purposely sort of, like if you ever tried blending and you're like, oh, I'm bad at it, there's actually ways to utilize that to your advantage. Like you can create more life and variance in armor plates and stuff by purposely using bad blends. play with it. Give it a try and see what you think. There's a lot of fun stuff you can do with like painting where you're just quite, you're still learning the technique because many techniques are learned and they take time to perfect. So like sometimes it's fun to just try things out and sort of fail at them, but take the lesson of that fail and apply it in a way to make it succeed. Does that make sense? Makes sense to me. We are working on a website. We've said it's a process. Let's highlight. Just the edge side of the brush. We're going to catch all these little glints. Now see, because I dulled everything down and I come back with this bright silver, it makes it feel much more metallic-y. Put some little reflection dots here and there. Maybe blend that one out because it's on his head. Gonna go up and over the top just to get that little line on the helmet. Oh, got silver on his head. Damp brush, clean it up. Easy peasy. Dots. Just makes it look like little metal reflexies. You can do like little lines too. You just have fun with the reflections and highlights. What mini is this? Koshi4822 asked, this is the Pike Syndicate unit leader to go with the Pike Syndicate units. It's time to highlight the black. So I actually had this recipe written down and I totally forgot what it was. 5 minutes? I'm so close to done. You got 5 minutes to ask me all your questions. Any question I can answer. We're going to try to highlight all of his wrinkly pants in 5 minutes. His pants is so wrinkled. I think the only thing I didn't get to is his blaster? I think that's the only thing I didn't get to. I tried my best. I almost got it painted in an hour. There's cupcakes. My favorite type of donut is a free one. I just made Kevin laugh a little too hard. It's true though. It's like my granddad used to say, you can call me anything you want, just don't call me late for dinner. we're just using little dings and dots to do the highlighting on the block. Just catch the edging. Doesn't have to be precise. We're painting for the game. All weekend long, there's all kinds of info coming. Tomorrow, you'll probably see the Pike Syndicate being played in a game. That's what I was told. I mean, that may be why I'm painting them right now. Join in and check out all the fun information, news. Darker color, lighter color, what is the best way to clean that up? So, the best way to clean it up, I'm getting told I'm going to be cut off real shortly. Best way to clean up paint that you got on another element that you shouldn't get on is use a second brush very quickly to wipe it away with some dampness on that brush. That's the best way to do it. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much trouble would you be in if we could see your hobby desk right now? Probably a 20. Probably a 20. Chick always says, my desk is where all the fun stuff lives. It is 100% true. My desk is where all the fun stuff is. Alright, we got 1 minute. I'm closing out. I'm just going to start painting this blaster, and I'm going to be done with this Pike Syndicate unit leader. In 1 hour, we're going to take some gray, rainy gray. I'm just going to go to the black. I'm just going to keep painting until they cut me off for the next stream. What's the next stream? I don't remember. I don't have it in front of me. Oh my gosh, I'm going to get painted. I'm going to
Primary
get...
colors.
What is it?
Primary colors.
Primary colors. Oh, yeah, we got primary colors coming up with one, Mr. William Schick. He'll be painting and talking about stuff. You know, he's more in the development side, so he'll answer some more developy type questions. I'm adding white to the rainy gray and highlighting the blaster. We got seconds left. Guess what? Done! Wow! That's, kick it over to that camera. I'm going to say goodbye. We did it. We painted our unit leader in 1 hour. By the skin of my teeth. Roll it out and we'll see you on the next stream, guys. Woo, that was close.